What's going on, people? Welcome back to Inside Devils, the show that keeps you bang up to date with everything coming out of Old Trafford. And again, once again, just like we start every single show, it's been another eventful week on and off the field at Manchester United. Of course, joining me is Angelina Kelly, Alex Crook from talkSPORT. Both of these guys, they were always here. And Joe Smith making his debut on Inside Devils from Stretford, Paddock. Nice to see you, Joe. I wish, to be honest, like we could see each other when it was more positive, but there is no positivity this season. So it is what it is. FA Cup, we are out. Fulham beat us 4-3 on penalties at Old Trafford yesterday evening. Joe, we'll start with yourself, actually. Your reaction to that, because Fulham's always a difficult game, one that we usually prevail in by the skin of our teeth. There wasn't a lot of quality in the game, but it ends up going to penalties and we fluff it. Just another disappointing day, and we're the holders of the cup, and now we're out.
Yeah, I was trying to look back. I think we've lost one game in the FA Cup in about 1,000 days before yesterday. Like the way it worked out with getting to finals and all that. Like we've actually done quite well in the FA Cup in recent seasons. Although actually, when you think about last season, the amount of games we had to scrape through and we barely sort of managed our way through, including Coventry, including Liverpool, obviously, it's not been easy riding. But I do think that I didn't expect yesterday to be that tough and that horrible. But then why didn't I expect that? Because every single game we play is like that. Every time we play, we sink to the level of the opposition or worse. You know, the passing was poor. We couldn't string 3 or 4 passes together. We couldn't play out from the back. Every time they try and play out from the back, our press doesn't get near them. Whenever we do it, we're having to boot it long because we can't play around them. I don't really know what I'm seeing from Man United anymore. It's just awful every single game.
Yeah, it is. It's shocking and crooky. Uh, you probably predicted a tight game. I think you did. Um, was it down to just individuals again yesterday, or just that was just a collective? That's what we are. Because yesterday there wasn't like a glaringly obvious mistake from said person, but it was just collectively, again, you look at it and just go, just not good enough.
It was just a very flat performance, wasn't it? Because I didn't think Fulham were great, and Fulham were a good side this season under Marco Silva. But if United had played to their capability, and I do think there's more to come from this team than we're seeing at this moment in time, then they would have beaten them, and we'd be talking about Palace at home as a really favourable quarter-final draw. It was a real disappointment, but nothing sums up modern day Manchester United like Victor Lindelof, a player who has long outstayed his welcome and should have been let go a long time ago, stepping up and missing a decisive penalty in a shootout. Same with Johnny Evans skying one over the crossbar in the Community Shield, and Jadon Sancho, his last kick of the United shirt, missing a penalty in that shootout. So it's an absolute mess, to be honest. Again, the system didn't bring the best out of the team, and I think we're going to have to start talking about the elephant in the room that is that system that RUBEN Amorim is sticking to. Another poor game, I thought, for Mazraoui. He's clearly struggling to play in that system. Rasmus Hojlund, 18 games without a goal now, never looked like scoring again. I don't understand the justification for keeping him in the team. Garnacho provided a real spark off the bench in the second half. Obviously, Amorim was saying he had a slight knock. I find that a little bit difficult to believe, to be honest, bearing in mind it was taken off early in the last game and obviously wasn't happy about it. I think it's probably a little bit of punishment from the manager, but he's cutting his nose off to spite his face there. So, all in all, a pretty toxic mix, really. And again, they're just not scoring enough goals and creating enough chances because, as I say, this Fulham team were there for the taking.
They were there for the taking, and we didn't perform anything near the level required. There were chances created, Angelina, for both sides, so kind of even in that sense. But Crookie touched on it there, and we'll talk about it on a bigger scale now. The system that RUBEN Amorim is presenting, this causes a lot of division in the fan base and a lot of conversation on the wider context. Stick or twist, stick to your principles, weed out the rubbish, don't change for these players. They've thrown managers under the bus before. They'll do it to you, Ruben. Don't you change. You've been brought in to play your system. Versus the opposing view, you're a manager. You don't quite have the tools you want yet. So wait until you get them and adapt with the tools to do the job that you have now. Where do you stand on that, Angelino? Because it is a big topic. And did you see that yesterday being an issue again?
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this, the system, the formation, what he should be doing. I've touched on it a couple of times that there are other managers who do have specific systems. Someone like Mikel Arteta, he started his time at Arsenal playing differently to help the players. So it is really a tough one. I think the hardest thing with Man United is that we have players that I think they can wait out another manager. And I think that's where it's a little bit difficult for us because we don't have the players, but we also don't have players with the right mindset, in my opinion. So it is a bit of a risk with Amorim is if he does change it, how does that affect mentality? I've said it a million times, will players be thinking, yeah, we knew that wouldn't last long, that's fine, no problem. We touched on it before we started recording. It's almost kind of, even if he does change it now, is it too little too late? Should he have maybe changed it at the beginning, tweaked it a little bit more at the beginning? So it's really hard to say what the right thing is. But at the end of the day, no matter what formation you're playing, if you have forwards that cannot finish a chance, that have terrible decision making in front of goal, what can you do? We have Alejandro Garnacho came on and definitely changed it. But for me, to sit and watch the amount of times that he squanders chances, it's really, really frustrating. You look at somebody like Rasmus Hojlund, who, like Crookie said, didn't look. I actually felt like I needed to ring some kind of authority because he was being bullied. Like it was sad to watch the way that he was being bullied. It was like, we need to call someone here because it was just sad. So I think it's really hard when you don't even have anyone that looks like they can score a goal. What even is going to come from, what have we got left? Like you say, you've got Europa League, you've got Premier League, does he try it in the Premier League maybe? But I worry if it would even change anything.
Yeah, I think now is there was a lot said about changing, and now you've just got the Europa League basically to try and get through, and there's so much glaringly obvious problems that we have. What good does it do him now to change at this stage? Now the league's gone, the FA Cup's gone. You're just going out on a whimper anyway. Do you tweak things just for Europa League? I can't see him doing it now. Joe, I know you got a massive community over there. You guys at Stretford Paddock. What's it been like in your community? Because you do see your comments first on different games. Everyone gets emotional. Then they do this on the watch-alongs. Then they retract. And then we're all emotional. We're emotional wreck. What's it been like over at Stretford Paddock? And how you see it about this system versus players thing.
I think you've summed it up pretty nicely. It's everyone up until just about sort of 15 minutes into every game, everyone's going, he's got to play his way. He's got to do it his way because otherwise, what is he? He's a shell of a man. If he gives up on his system now, then he's got no principles, he's got no standards, he's got no morals. And then 15 minutes in, everyone goes, right, can we just have a little 4-4-2, please? Because this isn't going to work. Like it's really hard to kind of go 90 minutes of the game watching terrible football twice a week going, this is the system for us, this works, this makes sense. But it is easy to forget that the last manager just got sacked this season with these players playing 4 at the back. So it's not like, remember all that success rate? It's not like Sir Alex has just left this summer and then, this is our sort of David Moyes. We were playing 4 at the back. We were 13th, I think, when Ten Hag got sacked. So it's not as though there's any guarantee changing back will even help things. The unfortunate reality is we're kind of letting this season sort of just run away, aren't we? We're basically saying, we'll see you next year. And if we can beat Real Betis in the meantime, get a favourable run in the Europa, and maybe by the time we play Tottenham, they've got a load of injuries, then we might be able to win a trophy. But we're kind of admitting that this season is a failure. And to do so, or, and just to sort of exemplify that, we're basically saying to the manager, you don't even have to win games this season. Do what you want. Find out which players work, find out which don't, which is a situation I never thought I would see Manchester United in, where we're essentially telling the manager, as long as you don't get relegated, you're all right. It's amazing. It is absolutely unthinkable, really, but I don't see any alternative to that now. What's the difference? You force the manager to change his system, hope that the players respond short term, rally up to 12th, and then next season we have to go through all this again. Is that really any better? I actually don't know if it is. And, I know there's different opinions, but personally, I think find out who works, find out who doesn't. We'll see who we get rid of in the summer, and we'll go again. My only worry is we've got another 3 months left, and if we win 3 games in that time and you draw and lose the rest, will the remaining players in the squad even support Ruben Amorim? Will they even back him by the time the summer rolls around? You can spend 150 million quid, but if the 15 players that are still here don't like the manager anymore, where does that leave us?
let's look at some of the individuals from yesterday. I was at. I don't know if was you at. No, you wasn't at the game, Crook. You was at the old Dancing on Ice, which is fantastic from your point of view. But I was at the game and Andre Onana. I don't know if you guys could hear it on TV, but the whole of Old Trafford is onto him. He didn't directly make a mistake that led to a goal yesterday, so I'm not going to pin anything like that on him. But the sheer chaos and panic that he's bringing to the team, in actually trying to slow it down and bring calm, was a bit counterproductive. Like he actually got booed yesterday. I'll call it out as it is. Old Trafford was booing Onana last night because he came to catch a ball, didn't quite catch it, then jumped on it. He took ages on a goal kick, and then he should have just passed it to Dalot, didn't, and I think we lost it. Then all the players are running over. Don't know if you can see it on TV. They're all talking to him. Bruno's doing this. It just looks like chaos, and then that fed into the stand. So that's an individual I want to talk about. I also want to talk about, of course, Chido Obi versus the Rasmus Hojlund situation as well. So just on those two, Crookie, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if we had a fit backup goalkeeper, then Onana wouldn't have played. If Bayern was fit, I think he would have been in net, and that might have given us more of a chance in the penalty shootout. When you look at what he did against Arsenal in the last round, I think Onana clearly is lacking confidence. I keep being told, actually, that if he could, he would not be against leaving Old Trafford and maybe ending what's been a pretty miserable time at the football club. But like with Rasmus Hojlund, if that is to come to being, they're not going to get back anywhere near the money they paid for him. Aaron Ramsdale is available this summer for a relatively modest fee. I think he's the type of personality and the shot stopper that we need. I would be all in favour of swapping Onana for Ramsdale, because I think Onana has proved that he's just not good enough. In terms of Obi, I think he's got something. You know, he's very raw. At times the ball wasn't sticking to him, but he certainly asked more questions of the Fulham defence than Hojlund did. I guess it's always difficult if you're chucking a young player into a struggling team, then you can actually hamper their development rather than help it. And I think that's what Ruben Amorim will be wrestling with. But it is time now to take Hojlund out of the team. And listen, we're not going to go down. I can't even believe we're talking in those terms. We're not going to qualify for Europe. So actually, there's an opportunity now to give some young players a chance between now and the end of the season. So I would be all in favour of him starting in the next game. Maybe not against Sociedad, because I think away from home in Europe, you need experienced heads. But certainly the next Premier League game, which I think is Arsenal, isn't it? So there's a nice little story to be written there.
He'll run around in that game, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I was talking to an Arsenal fan in the bar at Dancing on Ice last night, and he was saying if he just stayed at Arsenal, he'd probably be leading the line for us now, bearing in mind their injury issues. So, yeah, I would certainly like him to start that game of the weekend, but I think against Sociedad, I'd probably stick Xerxes up front. Or Garnacho in the number 9.
He keeps saying this. This is Crookie's number one petition, Garnacho in the 9. You've been screaming out for it for ages. Ruben's not listening. I don't know if we need to make a little soundbite that producer Jamie can send over to Ruben to petition that, but it hasn't happened yet. We've had Cobby in the 9 though, so you have got a chance. You never know. And actually, on that, well, I mean, look, putting him against Saliba and Gabriel as well for your first start isn't easy too. But yeah, I think he does need more minutes. I mean, if you look at Angelina, he's a kid that has come through. He's absolutely smashed it, at the under 18s level for Arsenal. Smashed it under 18 levels for us as soon as he cut here. Few games in the under 23s, we say to him, listen, sorry kid, we're not going to allow you to just get your feet under the carpet in under 23s. Can you just come into the first team and just play all the games for us now? And again, it's like we're doing it again, asking a young kid who technically shouldn't be playing at that level yet. I get it's great for him. It's great for his family. It's exciting to see somebody new. But he should not have to be fast-tracked this quickly without the proper development. And we're throwing him in saying sink or swim. But he did give Bassi and Anderson something more to think about, which is more than Hojlund's done in his last 17, 18 games.
Oh, 100%. And you look at the two players. You look at Hojlund and you look at Chido Obi. Hojlund is 5 years older than him. He's 6'3", Obi's 6'2", maybe not that much between it. But you look at their build, Chido Obi's a lot slimmer because he is 17 years of age. And the fact that he was fighting more, he was less bullied than Rasmus Hojlund. I think it kind of says, oh, Hojlund managed 9 touches, 1 in Fulham's box in 68 minutes. Chido Obi made 18 touches, 6 in the box. I think that tells you everything that you need to know. I agree. I think that once again, having to fast track kids through is not really what we want, as much as Man United bringing young talent through is something that we're known for. It's something that we should be doing 100%. I agree. You should protect him. But at the same time, this kid's on a lot of money for a 17-year-old. And if he's ready to have a go, then fair enough. But I agree with Crookie. I think you can't be expecting a 17-year-old kid to play every game and win the games for us. He can't be the next Ahmad, just kind of expecting him to be able to get it over the line for us. But yeah, no, I was really impressed with him, and I think it's best for Hojlund. I think it's best for everybody that he needs a little bit of time, because as much as I've been critical of him, I do actually feel sorry for him, because I think from the moment he stepped into the Man United team, there's been so much expectation on his shoulders. It's not like when he first came, he did have someone like Anthony Martial he could rely on because he was injured and MIA. So I do think that he's had it tough overall, but I think we need to just kind of put it on pause for a minute.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, just the last thing on Chido before we move on. For you, does he have to? That experiment with Rasmus needs to sort of come to an end now, even for his own good, to take him out the team? Or are you reluctant because Chido is so young and we're so poor, it could really have a damaging effect on him too?
We're just doing it again, aren't we? Whatever we did to Anthony Elanga, whatever we did to Adnan Januzaj, you could even argue Marcus Rashford to an extent, although he managed to sort of power his way through it for a few years at least. We're giving a player all of the limelight, all of the pressure. And at first we'll all say, and me and everyone else will go, there's no pressure, you're a young kid. Well, how long did that last with Anthony Elanga? Because I remember a season into his career, we were being told he was rubbish and not good enough for Man United. Now he's at Nottingham Forest, playing and putting performances in that we would absolutely kill for. So you don't quite get as long as you think. And I don't want, Chido Obi Martin, or Chido Obi, should I say, his career to be sort of tarnished by, a couple of bad performances here and there, because maybe right now everyone loves him and everyone's backing him, and I'm sure we all are. But that's not how public opinion works. You don't get forever. And I feel like the environment that he's being brought in isn't one that is sort of going to nurture and kind of bring the best out of it. A 17-year-old who just turned 17 quite recently as well. He's not like young, he's a child. It's like he's really, really young. Like, I just think, fair enough, we need to make some changes, and Hojlund obviously just can't get it going, and he seems to have lost any confidence he ever had. But I feel like it's so unfair on Chido that our next choice is Joshua Zirkzee, who has to play every game as a number 10 now anyway, because he's not quite a number 9, and because Ahmad's injured. And then our next choice is, where's the 28-year-old striker at United? Where's the 30-year-old striker at United? It's either a 22-year-old, let's not forget Hojlund, who is himself very young and inexperienced. You've got a 23-year-old, I think, in Zirkzee. I'm not sure if he's turned 24 yet, who, again, himself has had a couple of decent seasons as a professional, having left Bayern Munich. And then it's a 17-year-old who only made his debut for the under-18s this season. How is that what Man United has become? And obviously, I love seeing Chido. I thought he was very good yesterday, and I liked that he was, I think he's the only one who managed to lay a glove on Bassi all game, to be honest, because I thought Bassi played really well, but he pushed him out of the way, got his shot away. But I just think he keeps sticking him in these games. If the goals don't start flowing, which, why would they? Because the creative players at United, haven't been setting up chances for anyone, then eventually people are going to go, I'm not so sure about him. I'm not so sure about Chido. I think we need to just let this guy breathe a little bit and kind of come through naturally. But at the same time, like we all said, can we see another 10 games in a row of Hojlund starting? I'm not sure we can. I don't know what the answer is, but I worry that the answers that we've got aren't going to suit the players that we've got. So yeah, it's an impossible situation. And let's just say I like seeing Chido play yesterday. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, it was something to look at. But I did see, you did see the rawness. You did see, like I said, the ball not sticking a little bit in some moments. But again, he's apprehensive. Of course, he's going to be nervous. He's been thrown into the deep end, but then he started to get into the game a little bit more. A couple of bits of link up play with Zirkzee. And again, just giving Bassi that nudge a couple of times to create a chance. And actually, let's not forget that third chance. He nearly wins us the game. Gets a slight touch off Bassi. It's a great save from Leno, to be fair. Really, that probably should have been a goal. So more involvement in the game than what what Rasmus Hojlund gets. And actually, we say we don't create chances. Well, actually, Chido has been part of 3 chances, which Rasmus hasn't seen in a row, in a whole heap of time. So actually, that shows a little bit about the knack of knowing where to be, the knack of sensing the ball might be there. That one where De Ligt sort of foot being fouled and he gets a toe on it, probably should score that one as well. But the knack of being there, the knack of giving Bassi that nudge just to knock him off balance, the knack of getting the ball in the inside left to get that chance for the save from Leno. So there is a little bit there. Before we finish off on yesterday's game, Alejandro Garnacho off the bench, Crookie. Angelina touched on it. Impact, yes. Well, first of all, what did you make of the situation that happened during the week about, going down the tunnel and RUBEN addressing it? And you said sort of he might have been cutting his nose off to spite his space by not starting him, but also when he came on, went at Castagna to get some change out of him, which is what we needed, but also a mixture of poor crosses, poor shots, etc., etc.
Yeah, I thought it was bratish behaviour against Ipswich. I got a bit of stick actually on social media, actually via Troy Deeney, because Troy came out and hammered him, and there was a United fan saying, tell Troy that he was going to change his shirt, which is true. But I also know that he didn't come back out for the second half. So,
exactly.
That clearly is petulant. I thought the tweet at the end of the game was misguided. He should have been celebrating the fact that even with 10 men, United have managed to pick up what could be quite a big win at the end of the season. It's all about him. So I understand Ruben Amorim's frustration. I thought he dealt with it well in the press conference. He didn't chuck him under a bus. He just said, look, it's all sorted. He's going to take the lads out for dinner. But I do think it influences team selection. And you're right. I think we saw the good, bad and ugly of Garnacho in that 45-minute cameo, or, well, hour and a quarter cameo, as it turned out, because he did take players on. He did get in some decent positions. Often the end product let him down. I think the chance that he had one-on-one with Leno, he could have done better there. He just didn't quite generate enough power. But I still think he makes defenders uncomfortable. And we haven't got too many players in the forward areas who do that. So, again, it comes down to the system. The reason he's not playing is because he doesn't fit the system. But if he's your best hope going forward, then it's the manager's job to try and find a way to accommodate him.
Yeah, and it's him off the bench as well. I've noticed so many times that if you start someone like Garnacho with the group of players we have, especially without Ahmad, you look to the bench and you go, is there a real game changer? Is there a real gear shifter there who can change the momentum of a game? Eriksen's not really that. Chido's a young kid. What other attackers do we have on the bench? That's it, isn't it?
None.
That's it. None. That's it.
We had 2 keepers.
So if you don't, see 2 keepers. So if you don't have someone like Garnacho in your weaponry on the bench, when the game goes a bit flat, you don't have that gear to go up. So I understand the sort of notion of, because when he starts, we've been like, he hasn't quite done it, but he's changed the game almost every time he's come on. He did it against Leicester. He did it against FCSB, didn't he? He's done it yesterday. There's a shift because, like you said, Crookie, he's the only one out of our attackers who can go at people. Xerxes doesn't want to do that. Bruno, that's not his game in a 10. There's no Mason Mount. There's no Ahmad. Rasmus Hojlund is having a terrible time. And Xerxes, so that we don't have anybody who can do what Garnacho does, which I think Ruben's stuck between a rock and a hard place of, when I start him, if the game goes flat, what do I do? Versus I keep bringing him off the bench and he has to do everything. So, yeah, another poor situation. Let's talk about the captain, Bruno Fernandes, now, away from the game. Well, actually, it includes the game yesterday because he did score. He was the reason why we got back into the game. And Joe, there's been a lot been said from Roy Keane, which on the overlap and him and Ian Wright, that viral clip of Roy Keane basically just hammering Bruno, saying he's a pretender and not a good captain, etc., etc. And Ian Wright kind of defended him, and that led to a wider conversation. I'm sure you've spoken about it a lot on the paddock, but for you, Bruno Fernandes, discuss, actually. That's an open question.
In terms of captain candidates at Man United, there's no other options. So I think that for me, that conversation is a bit of a non-starter, really. I can't even imagine who you would pick as captain. Look at the longest serving players at United, which is typically one starting point. It's Marcus Rashford, who plays for Aston Villa. It's Luke Shaw, who plays for nobody. And it's Bruno Fernandes, who plays every single minute of every single game. There's not really much of a conversation there. When you look at the output and who plays the best for Man United, I can't even tell you other than Onana. But like we said, if there was an option, he'd probably be on the bench at the minute. I can't even tell you who's basically deserves to start, let alone deserves to be captain. Bruno deserves to start and starts every single game. There's, I think whether he should be the captain isn't even a conversation personally. Whether he's as good a captain as Roy Keane or the players that Roy Keane was sort of playing in and amongst, well, maybe he's not. But what do you want him to do? Build Roy Keane's and Steve Bruce's and Eric Cantona's from thin air? You can't do that. That's not the team he plays in. And if Roy Keane played in this team, I'm sure he'd struggle as well. He wouldn't be, trebles and Premier League titles 3 and 4 years. It would be basically where we are now, but maybe, I don't know, a couple of places higher and a few more red cards. I just think it's such a weird. I mean, I like Roy Keane. I think he's a very good pundit, and obviously one of the best players that Man United have ever had. So there's no, conversation or argument there. But I think it was slightly misguided, and I feel like, he talks a lot about not really being a United fan and not particularly caring about Man United, but try telling him that when he's screaming at Ian Wright about whether he's the right captain for Manchester United. He clearly cares. And I think that it's a shame that Bruno Fernandes has to be the kind of the target of this sort of, well-timed, but I think wrongly placed rant from Roy Keane about how poor Manchester United are, when I think Bruno Fernandes is one of the only bright sparks at Manchester United and one of the only people actually who's even worthy of the comparisons of the likes of, some of the players, the Michael Carricks or the Paul Scholes or the Roy Keanes. Bruno's the only player in this team that would even regularly start in a Sir Alex team, and I think he would, by the way. I think he would get gains for most of Sir Alex Ferguson's team. Whether he'd be the star man like Roy Keane was, I'm not so sure. But no one else in this squad is starting week in, week out for that 2012 or 2013 Man United team or the 2010 United team. Bruno does, because you don't, you can get 15 goals, 15 assists. Not many of the midfielders in Sir Alex Ferguson's teams had 15 goals, 15 assists this season. So I feel a little bit bad for Bruno. He's trying to do it all himself. At times he's a little bit petulant and a little bit mardy, and we know all this. But again, he's the only real remote candidate for United captain. And I think that he's actually putting numbers up this season again, despite the fact that we're 15th. What is it, another 10 goal, 10 assist season from him? Come on. I just feel like it's... Yeah, we've had about 2 penalties in the last 5 years. I don't think that's what's doing it anymore. Yeah, I just think... I like, obviously, the passion from Keane. I love hearing him talk, but I just think... For me, I think he just got it wrong with that one. I think Bruno's not the guy to be going after in this team.
Yeah, Angelina, do you see it as, but where are we with Bruno though? Or do you agree with Joe? Because there was a lot of scrutiny from Roy Keane on him. But this is a player who continually turns out for United.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Joe. I mean, I think if we're being completely honest, Bruno Fernandes is a very good player for Man United, which is a team without a lot of elite performers. Would Bruno Fernandes be playing week in, week out for, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Liverpool? You can argue, I don't know, maybe some people think that he would be playing week in, week out. I don't think he necessarily would, but I don't think that's him. I'm not trying to say that he's a bad player in that sense. I think that he gets a lot of stick. I think we've spoken about it before. Roy Keane wants to moan about him as a captain and everything, and people don't like the petulance. We've had a lot of, a lot of bad PR around Man United at the minute. We've heard a lot of stories about him offering to pay for things for people, offering to try and help the women's team ensure that their families can be at Wembley for the FA Cup final, things like that. That speaks a lot for me. And at the end of the day, since he made his Premier League debut, 5 years ago, only Kevin De Bruyne and Mo Salah have created more goals. So imagine Bruno Fernandes with the right talent around him. Imagine with an Erling Haaland as his target man, or just better forwards in general, the kind of players that Liverpool have got, for example. I think that, Roy Keane would not be sat there being as critical. So I agree. I think that he's got it wrong on this one. I know we've had a lot of debates about, pundits and their opinions and stuff like that. I just don't really get what's going to come out of that. What is Man United gaining from that? And I think Amorim did a good job of defending him as well. So yeah, I get it. Maybe not a star player in the top teams in Europe. But I think for Man United, you cannot say this guy doesn't try. This guy works hard. He cares. He understands the assignment. And like I say, he's created a lot over the years for
Yeah,
us.
and did again last night. We're staring down the depths of the barrel. Nobody else was going to score yesterday. There was nothing going on. We wasn't really creating. Flash of a pan. And actually, it's a really difficult chance, that goal. When you see it back, it's kind of bouncing twice. You look at one, the Liverpool one with Maguire, Crook. Remember we spoke about that one where he blazed it over the bar near the end. Weaker foot, bouncing a couple of times. To guide that into the corner is actually a really good finish technically. Quickie, for you, we have to talk, because Ryan brought this up, didn't he, a few weeks. Angelina spoke about it there, and we sort of pushed back that day, didn't we? Of, listen, the legends are entitled to say, what they want to say. They come from a different era, and if we lose those standards, where are we really going? We have to have some level of standards. Is this what Ryan meant when he talks about, but sometimes they're going too far? Because this is counterproductive. It brought more negativity. All everyone was talking about now was Bruno Fernandes at a time where, I mean, the guy is trying to literally keep us in the league. Let's be real, keep us in the division. And then you've got one of our legends, our absolute legends, one of our best captains ever, sort of absolutely ripping him to shreds, calling him a pretender and a this and that. And I think that's really harsh. But is this what Ryan potentially meant by legends don't really help us now?
Yeah, I think so. But in Roy Keane's defence, I think he was a different kind of captain to Bruno Fernandes. So he's probably frustrated by the theatrics and the arm waving when things don't go for him. But I think you have to look deeper than that. As you say, his numbers speak for themselves. This is a guy really who's carried the team on his back for the last 4 or 5 years. And it wouldn't surprise me, actually, if Bruno Fernandes wanted to leave at the end of the season, because he should be playing in a better team, competing for bigger things than just trying to stay in the division and maybe sneaking through in the Europa League. And I think if he does go, and I wouldn't blame him, I think then people like Roy Keane would start to appreciate that actually he's far and away the best player in this team. It was easy for Roy Keane to look good, and listen, he was a great player, but he was surrounded by great players that would call his behaviour into account. When he first came into the team and he walked into a dressing room with the likes of Brian Robson and Eric Cantona and Mark Hughes and Brian McClare. Bruno doesn't have that. And I agree with Joe. If Roy Keane was in this team, then he probably wouldn't be the legendary player that he is. And also, yeah, I don't like the theatrics sometimes. I think that Liverpool game at Anfield is going to come back and haunt Bruno, and it'll always be there in the background as a stick to beat him with. But you look at how he does conduct himself, as Angelina's alluded to, the fact he was the one trying to get tickets for people for the FA Cup final for staff. I was there at Rude's first game in charge against Leicester. Took my lads and we waited at the players' entrance to see who would stop and maybe sign an autograph or two or pose for photos. The bulk of the United players just walked past with their heads bowed, maybe some let off a wave. Bruno Fernandes was pretty much one of the only ones who gave the kids his time. He was there for a good 45 minutes to an hour, signing autographs, posing for photos. That's a captain. I think he gets it. I think actually some of his behaviour is because he's hurting about how low standards have fallen at Old Trafford. So as I say, I would not be surprised, and I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to get out of there, because he's probably wasting the best years of his career surrounded by crap.
Well, Ryan's already brought this topic up, and here's exactly what he's had to say about it, especially after Roy Keane has been going in on Bruno Fernandes.
Yes, cheers, Flex. I was on the Inside Devils panel just a few weeks ago, and we had that brilliant debate, a really fiery discussion at points about, do former Manchester United players turn pundits, add unnecessary pressure to the current crop of Man United players? I was very much of the opinion, yes, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do contribute to this negative aura surrounding United at the moment. They do pile onto the misery at times. Now, look, when it's warranted, when it's criticism, but that's, is constructive, that's fine. Even when it's born out of passion, that's absolutely no problem if it's warranted. But it was the frequent berating, the unnecessary rants that really got to me. And I feel subconsciously add to this negativity right now that we're experiencing. And I stand before you. I know largely you guys didn't mind them doing this, but I stand before you a few days after Roy Keane goes two-footed on Bruno Fernandes. So there's no other words for it. In a top-of-the-voice rant that he had, it lasted about 2 or 3 minutes about Bruno, about him as a player, about not closing players down, about his attitude, about his captain credentials, about the fact that away fans singing his name flabbergasted him. He couldn't fathom that they were singing Bruno's name. Now, I want to get your opinion on this, because for me, he completely It was completely unwarranted. It was completely unnecessary, and he singled out the wrong player. Bruno Fernandes is not the guy that you go after. He's gone after the best signing, the only world-class signing that we've had post Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't get it. If not for Bruno Fernandes, who takes the corners? If not for Bruno Fernandes, who takes the free kicks? Who converts every single spot kick? He scored every single penalty that he's taken this season. If not for Bruno Fernandes, who turns up every single week? He's only missed 3 games through injury since his debut in 2019. And I've got some stats for you. Bruno has more goals and assists than Kevin De Bruyne since Bruno's debut. His average season rating hasn't dropped below a 7.5 since his debut in 2019. Points per player, he's only second to Mo Salah since his debut. Bruno's not the one. He's the only player since Sir Alex Ferguson who can grab Manchester United by the scruff of the neck and drag them through a game. If not for Bruno, Manchester United lose that game at Goodison 2-0. If not for that free kick, we go out within 90 minutes against Fulham. It's a bit of Bruno magic that makes it 1-1 and even gets us to penalties. Bruno's not the guy that you go after, in my opinion. So, guys, I wanted to get your opinion on that. And as far as Man United fans singing his name, what do you want? How can you take that away from United fans? They're singing about a player that they're watching give everything on that field. And with regards to captain credentials, I get it. There'll be debate about that. You guys are going to talk about that now. No doubt about it. He throws his hands in the air. However, who else? Who else would be captain for Manchester United right now, if not for Bruno? He's the one who stepped up and decided to put that armband on. And isn't that by its very definition what a captain should be? Stepping in when no one else can. For me, Bruno is not the guy that you go for.
I want to ask you about another legend, Crookie, as well, because Wayne Rooney had a lot to say towards Ruben Amorim in the aftermath of yesterday's game as well, because Ruben Amorim did say in his post-match interview that, you know, it's the aim to win the league with this team. I don't know when. I don't know if it's even going to be with me, but that is the aim. Rooney pushed back on that and says he's naive saying that, you know, shouldn't do it, and then he's pushed back on that again in his actual press conference and said, I'm not naive. That's why I'm managing United at 40. Little bit of a dig there to Rooney, saying, look at your managerial career versus mine. But he also did go on to say, well, this is Man United. Of course, the aim is to eventually win that again. How could that not be the aim? This is if he comes out and then says, that's not our aim. This is just game by. We just want to win the next game. I get that, but the overall aim is for us to be back challenging. What did you make of both things being said there? Is it naive for Ruben Amorim to say that in that moment, or does he have a point to state that, or is Rooney right?
I think this probably is more of proof of Ryan's argument. Actually, it's a needless thing for Rooney to say, to be honest. I think this is nitpicking, you know, just to try and generate headlines, try and get in a tete-a-tete, which obviously Amorim bit on. I think he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, because we all slated David Moyes for saying at one stage that United should be trying to emulate Manchester City. Well, this is Ruben Amorim saying, actually, we're Manchester United. We should be challenging for Premier League titles, and I think we do want to hear that. I do think at times maybe he's too honest in his press conferences. Maybe he could be a bit more of a diplomat, but it just seems that this is his way, and it probably backs up your point, Flex. When it comes to the players, he's not afraid to chuck them under the bus, because he must have been told by the hierarchy, we want to get most of these players gone, so do and say what you want if it helps hasten their exits. Yeah,
I agree. Joe, for you, it's another legend, another absolute gem of a player. Look like it's the stick in the boot. Scholes has been at it on the overlap. Yep. Gary Neville's been scathing. Rooney's been scathing. Now he's the latest.
Is it? Do other clubs and legends do this? I don't remember this. I don't know.
No, not
when
really.
Liverpool didn't win a league title for 30 years. I don't really remember it being this harsh about current players. I remember it felt to me. I mean, maybe punditry's changed. I feel like everything's got a bit more relaxed, a little bit more kind of real people say what they mean these days. But I do feel like everything I hear out of Neville or Scholes or Keane or Rooney feels quite. I don't know. I mean, what else are they going to do with 15th in the league? They're not going to say how great we are, are they? So I do get that. But I do think that, Amorim saying that the aim is to win the league, it has to be, doesn't it? We're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. What else is it going to be? Oh, I'd love it if in, 3 or 4 years' time, United can get top 10. Like, what, how mad would that be? He would get
They'd
sacked on
slate
the
him for
spot
that.
if he said
They'd
that.
slate him for that, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't obviously say that. And Manchester United, whether people will say, well, we're not the team that we were. We're not, look at the standards. You got to improve incrementally, but we still earn some of the most in the world. If Adidas are our sponsor, they're still paying us some of the most in the world. Everything around Manchester United is still trying to operate as though it's one of the biggest and best in the world. And if we all of a sudden say, well, actually on the pitch, the aim is to just get Europa Conference like West Ham did, then that just doesn't line up with anything else about Manchester United. We're trying to build a £2 billion mega 100,000 seater stadium. Is that going to happen for a team that's, if we get in Europe, then that would be great? Like, obviously, winning the Premier League has to be the end goal. And I don't think that shying away from that would be, the right thing to do either, because then you get, as you mentioned before, you get criticised for being, too sort of low in your standards. Look at Roy Keane's rant. Half of that was about the standards slipping and not being where we should be. If you come out and say anything different, then you get criticised for that. So I do think it's probably just Rooney thinking they've been terrible today. United are terrible. Let's not worry about winning the Premier League right now when we've just been knocked out of the FA Cup. But it's like you said, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Because if he says anything else, then he's, you might as well walk out the door. Because if you don't think we can win the Premier League in the next few years, why are you even here?
Yeah, exactly. Angelina, did you like the way he defended himself? Listen, he was a bit smart in the end. He explained everything quite well. And then the last bit, he was also like, I'm going to throw this bit in there. That's how I saw it. I'm not naive because I'm managing Man United at 40 to say, look how good I am, essentially, even though we're doing rubbish. But before that, though, he was saying, look, I don't know when that will be. I don't even know if it'll be with me, but that is the aim. Do you like what he said back?
Oh, I'm here for it. I mean, we all love Wayne Rooney, absolute legend of the club, of course. But I agree with the guys. It was just a little bit like, is there any need to say this? Is this just the fact that Rooney's maybe realised management isn't for him and maybe he's going down the route of punditry and wants to be a bit sensational? I'm not too sure, but I just think it was a little bit silly, and I kind of liked it from Amorim because it's true. Like, he is 40 years of age, managing Man United. Wayne Rooney, it ain't going well. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't mind a little job like that. But I agree. If he'd have said, "Oh, we're nowhere near the Premier League. It's not even on our radar," or something like that, everyone would be up in arms. So whatever he says, he's going to get criticised. I think it's, that there's this mission that United have released that they want to win the Premier League by 2028. I think Amorim coming out and saying he doesn't know when. I think that's the smartest answer, to be honest, because if you give any kind of timescale, the pressure is on, the spotlight is on you. So I agree with Crookie. Sometimes he's a little bit too honest, but I think in that situation to just say, yeah, we are aiming for the Premier League. We're Manchester United. I can't give you a timeline of that. I think that's where the honesty. I'm okay with it, but yeah, I'm chomping a little bit at Rooney. I was kind of here for it. It made me laugh.
Yeah, that is a bit of Ange's personality there. That's a little insight. That's a little insight into it there. Yeah, he is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. When he said this is the worst team ever, which it absolutely is. It's, don't say that. Players gonna need you. Don't do that. Now it's, we need to be wanting to win the Premier League. Don't say that. Players won't believe you. Can't win. Right. Lastly, before we wrap up, guys, let's look ahead. Dare we look ahead? We've had to play 120 minutes now, which is great prep for Real Sociedad. In a few days' time away, 2-legged tie. Garnacho got his first goal against in his career at Real Sociedad, set up by Ronaldo. I was there. That was a great goal that night. Real Sociedad, no mugs. Gonna be a difficult tie over 2 legs. Crookie, for you, the squad's gonna be knackered. And a couple of days rest before they got to do it after playing 120 minutes. I think Ruben spoke about some players that were tired. That's why Andre Onana was slowing things down. A couple of players had to come off. How do you see this going, and what sort of team do you think he should put out, or is there not much else he can put out, actually?
Well, the options are limited, aren't they? In terms of how you change it around. Again, I've mentioned that Hojlund needs to be taken out of the firing line. His record in Europe for United is actually quite good. Tends to save most of his goals for European competition. So maybe this isn't the game to drop him. But
He's
that
actually
decision's
really
gonna-
good in Europe. His record's so
He is.
good.
Yeah, but that decision's going to have to be made sooner or later. When the draw was made, and it was an either or, wasn't it, RZ or Sociedad? I was hoping that it'd be RZ. I think that's the far easier opponent. This Sociedad team are everything that Amorim wants United to be. They're full of legs in midfield. They press high. They've got a lot of energy. So I think this is a nightmare draw for United, particularly as you say after that extra half an hour when there were some players, Xerxes, who could barely walk when he took his penalty, were out on their feet by the end of that game. So yeah, not ideal. They lost 4-0 to Barcelona at the weekend. Sociedad, they're 9th in La Liga, so they're not pulling up any great trees domestically. But in Zubamendi, they've got a player I think he's destined, if not for Arsenal, then maybe for Real Madrid. So he's certainly one we're going to have to keep a close eye on. I would take a draw now and take them back to Old Trafford. But having said that, our record at Old Trafford is so poor that maybe the best chance of success is to get a victory away from home.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tough ask. Joe, how do you see it?
I mean, a lot of the same points. Any team that presses us and pushes high and try and wins the ball off us, they just do, don't they? Let's be honest. No, we can't play through anyone. We do this little thing where we'll have 2 or 3 passes in the corner. Everyone's squashed, so we give it back to Anal and he boots it up top. That's what we do. And then when the opposition tries to play out, we've got Xerxes and Hojlund sort of jogging over. They pass it around us, and then we're on the back foot. Like, Sociedad are a good football inside, as most Spanish teams tend to be. We've seen it so many times in Europe as well. They just seem to have the kryptonite for the rest of Europe, don't they? Spanish teams do so well in European competitions over the last sort of 20 years or so. It's almost impossible, but we should still be able to put something up. But like you said, it's like if we go over there and we get a draw, right, bring back to Old Trafford where we lose every week. Like, it doesn't feel like we've got somewhere to bring them back and beat them up at Old Trafford. I just think we're going to have to, again, but my prediction for the Fulham game, we're going to have to sort of scruff our way through it a little bit. It's going to be hard and horrible. If we're going to get through, it's not going to be fun. We're not going to batter them. It's going to be tight stuff, maybe extra time, penalties, whatever it may be. It's that kind of fixture. So if we win, it'll be tight, and if we lose, it won't.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you said there, Angelina. Are you trying to get Chido in there? You're starting Garnacho from the off away at Sociedad. You need someone on the counter, get him in there straight away. Yoro's looking a little bit more competent now as well. He's looking good, to be fair. The Lich showing a bit. There are a couple of positives in there. Bruno's ever present. I'm scraping the barrel here, but I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think this one for Chido Obi maybe.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't be starting him for this. I'm all for Cookie's campaign of Garnacho. Maybe trying him in that role because it can't get any worse. I mean, the fact that Sociedad have got Kubo, who was dubbed the Japanese Messi. He actually went to Barcelona in the youth team, but it was found out that Barcelona violated FIFA's international transfer policy for under 18s. So he actually ended up at Real Madrid for a period, and there was a lot of expectation on him. He's had a lot of loans. It's never really took off for him. Even he's got 5 goals. They also have the person who won the Euros for Spain in the summer in their side. He's got 9 goals this season. I think I say it every week. I think it just comes down to the fact that the opposition have more creativity and they've got more people that can find the back of the net than us. So I honestly don't know what to expect. I agree. I don't think Yoro was horrendous. Yesterday, this is how bad it's getting. He wasn't horrendous. Delay actually impressed me at times. I think he's had a couple of good moments. I know some people have been quite critical, but yeah, I honestly, for me, I just don't think Hojlund can start. That's my main takeaway from it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you very much for watching the latest episode of Inside Devils. A big thank you to Joe Swift coming over from Stretford, Paddock, and joining us, Angelina Kelly and Alex Crook as usual. It's another week. It's another couple of games. We dare not even speak of the Arsenal game, actually. I think you can take that as we all think we're going to lose. I'm going to speak for all of us. Why not? Why not? Because it is that negative. Let's end on a negative. Why not? Guys, we'll see you on the next show, and we'll see what sort of shape we're in after that. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.